Well, welcome to Christ in Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And today we're going to be talking about a sad phenomenon occurring among Republicans who are supposed to be pro-life. They're supposed to be for human life and against the culture of death. They're supposed to be conservatives. They're supposed to be holding to family values and traditional Christian family values, but no, they're not. They're actually flip-flopping, and they're becoming pro-abortion. And we just have another example of this with politician Kari Lake in Arizona. And she is now coming out and promoting an essentially pro-choice, pro-abortion position. And this is becoming common now among some Republicans. Now, there have always been a few Republicans who have been on the leftist side, the liberal side, and some of the very, very liberal states that have somehow been able to go under the radar for a while. But now we're beginning to see a lot of different Republican politicians come out and just advocate for abortion. And we're even seeing this in the presidential race of this year with Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done great things for the pro-life movement, but he is waffling. He is caving in. He is softening on his pro-life credentials, you might say, because that's what he's run on in 2016. He ran on that 2020 when he lost, and now he's worried about losing the election in 2024, and so he's softening and caving in on the life issues, the human life issues, pro-life. He's softening that, and he's becoming more pro-abortion. So something to be concerned about. But let's look at a video clip with Allie Beth Stuckey, another cultural analyst, very, very observant and very, very insightful commentary she's been giving lately. And one of the better Judeo-Christian voices in the broadcasting world. So let's roll that clip and see what she says, and then I'll stop it at points and make a comment.
Kari Lake recently released a video basically echoing Trump's stance on abortion, this very moderate, sophisticated, pragmatic, pseudo-compassionate stance that we actually need to be much more middle of the road on abortion. Not only does she make the case that that is necessary to win elections, but it's also the more moral position, which is just absolutely egregious. So here is part of the video that Kari Lake put out on X the other day.
Okay, before we roll that video, let me just explain a little bit. Donald Trump recently came out and commented on an Arizona Supreme Court decision which basically bans abortion at all levels of conception. So it's basically the pro-life dream, it's the pro-life goal, and it's the fulfillment of the pro-life agenda. And something to rejoice about, something as Christians we are happy to see that now that Donald Trump and his 3 Supreme Court justice picks have now ruled against Roe v. Wade a couple years ago, now the abortion issue is pushed back to the states. And lo and behold, Arizona has an abortion law on the books that says abortion is banned, period, across the board. You cannot have an abortion. And this is great because this is exactly what our goal is as Christians. We respect human life at all levels, even at the tiniest level and even at the oldest level. We respect human life at its earliest stage, at conception, and also at its latest stage for the death and the dying of older people. And so we don't advocate for euthanasia, which is basically called mercy killing. We don't advocate that you go in and kill grandma and grandpa because they're getting up in age. We don't advocate that you kill the baby conception in the womb because you want to go to college or you want a career. We advocate respect for human life at all levels. So this is a great victory for the pro-life cause in Arizona because abortion is effectively banned in that state according to that law. But here we have Donald Trump, candidate, coming out and saying, oh, this is an egregious ruling. This is an egregious law. This is terrible. Well, why in the world is it terrible? If you want to save human lives, if you want to respect human life at all stages, why is it terrible? In fact, it's exactly what Donald Trump was saying he wanted to have done. Abortion settled at the local level, the state level. And here it is. Arizona is settling the abortion issue at their state level. But yet Donald Trump is not happy with that. Well, why isn't he happy with that? Well, the answer is, and we've already known this for many, many years, but we've played along, but we've known that Donald Trump is not a pro-life by conviction. He is pro-life by pragmatic political calculation. He wants the conservative vote. He ran on the conservative ticket, and so he acted conservative. He acted like he was pro-life. He did do many great things for the pro-life movement. I was there in Washington at the March for Life, where he appeared and was basically encouraging the pro-lifers. And so we support him because he was our guy that got 3 Supreme Court justices on the bench, and they actually overruled Roe v. Wade, which is a great, great day in American history. But here, our guy now, who wasn't ever on our side by conviction, is beginning to play for the other side in some respects. And so that's going to have a trickle-down effect, and this Kari Lake is just simply following Trump's lead. So this is a sad, sad development, and we need to resist it. We need to push back on it. We need to complain about it before this becomes a regular practice in the Republican Party. Because I'll tell you one thing, I will not vote for pro-abortion politicians. That's just a rule I have. I will never promote the killing of unborn children, and I will not promote abortions through these politicians. I will not approve of abortion through any means. So if this is the way the Republican Party is going to be headed in the future in order to win, quote, win elections, then I'll have no part of the Republican Party. But let's just wait and see what happens. But Kari Lake seems to be following along in Trump's footsteps.
SOT 1.
This total ban on abortion that the Arizona Supreme Court just ruled on is out of line with where the people of this state are.
And I would just say, who cares what is out of line with the people of this state are? If you're truly pro-life and you want to defend the unborn against murder, against baby killing, against premature death through abortion, then you're not going to complain if a law is too strict for the people, quote, people of the state of Arizona. You're going to rejoice in the fact that the foolish people, whoever they are in this state who want abortion, are not getting their way. That's what you're going to rejoice. So what in the world is a supposedly pro-life candidate saying, well, this restriction on abortion is too extreme? What? That sounds like you've joined the other side. You've gone over to the other side now.
Issue is less about banning abortion and more about saving babies. I agree with President.
And that totally makes no sense. The issue is less about banning abortion than saving babies. Well, if you ban abortion, you're going to be saving babies, right? If you ban all abortions, you've saved all those babies that would have been aborted, right? So this is gobbledygook. This woman is speaking out of both sides of her mouth. She wants to be conservative, she wants to be pro-life, and yet she's also pro-choice and pro-abortion.
Trump, this is such a personal and private issue. I chose life.
Personal and private issue. This is the 90s talking points. This is Bill Clinton. This is Mario Cuomo used to say, I'm personally, he would say, as a Catholic, Roman Catholic, I'm personally against abortion, but I can't legislate. It's a personal choice between a mother and her family and her doctor. This is the pro-choice, pro-abortion talking points. And here is a supposedly conservative Republican mouthing the Democratic liberal talking points of 20 years ago.
But I'm not every woman. I want to make sure that every woman who finds herself pregnant has more choices so that she
Choices, more choices. So she wants to make sure that women have more choices. In other words, including killing their baby. This is not a Republican. This is not a pro-life conservative. This is a liberal woman who is masquerading in sheep's clothing.
can make that choice that I made.
Okay, so that's the pro-choice, pro-abortion position. She
Exactly.
just articulated it. She just put some soft music behind it, and she happens to say that she's a Republican, and so all of a sudden, that is now the pro-life take. The pro-life take among Republicans is to actually be pro-choice, and pretty ardently pro-choice. She said it's a personal, private thing. I chose life, but I'm not every other woman. That is exactly what Planned Parenthood believes.
That is exactly what pro-abortion candidates have been saying for the last 2 decades. I cannot believe that a politician thinks that the public is so gullible that you can totally join the enemy's side and still call yourself a conservative, family values, Republican, Christian family value person. This is absurd. I mean, you have to be a complete idiot to not see that this woman is now pro-abortion. She's a pro-abortion candidate. I don't care if you call her whatever label you put on her, she's a pro-abortion candidate.
That is exactly what every pro-abortion, pro-choice activist has been saying for literally decades. Now, this is the conservative position. This is the anti-abortion position. It's the anti-abortion position to be pro the choice of abortion.
This is absurd. The anti-abortion position is to be pro-choice now. This is George Orwell. This is doublespeak. If you've ever read that book, 1984, this is what that fictitious government used to do. They'd put out propaganda and they'd put out doublespeak. And they'd say the Ministry of Health, and they would be the ministry in charge of death. And they would say the Ministry of Charity, and they would be actually the Ministry of Taking from you. So here is a propagandist. This politician this is evil to say that you're a conservative and that you respect human life and you want babies saved, and at the same time advocating for the pro-abortion position and saying it with soothing music and saying it calmly and softly. This is evil. This is evil staring you in the face, trying to say it's an angel.
We're talking about murdering people. That's what we're talking about. We are talking about the violent poisoning and or dismembering of helpless babies. That's what we're talking about when we're using this soft music with the warm filters to make it seem like we're really thoughtfully, empathetically thinking through this complicated, private, personal issue. We are talking about the murder of people. Okay? We are talking about chopping up babies. There's not much nuance to this, okay? So excuse me if I don't have a lot of patience for your pragmatism. I think that it's evil. All right?
And she was saying pragmatism. This is simply a maneuver to try to win an election. Kari Lake is running for Senate in Arizona. She lost her race for governor, and there were shenanigans, yes, and there were some voting problems and all kinds of things like that. So whether she actually, in fact, won or not, it's still up in the air. That's water under the bridge. But now she's running for Senate, and her and Trump and some other politicians that are supposed to be conservative and Republicans, they've made a calculation. They say, well, look, we lost in 2020 because we were pro-life, because the country seems to be pro-abortion now. The Democrats at least think that the country is pro-abortion, and so they're going to push the abortion issue to the forefront. And so what we have to do is become more abortion. That's what these Republicans are thinking. And yet they don't want to come right out and say, I'm actually the way the Democrats are. I'm pro-abortion. I'm for baby killing. They won't come out and say that. So they make these videos like Kari Lake saying, I believe in the choice of the mother, and it's a very personal decision. They're saying everything the pro-abortion people have ever said, except they're not saying, I'm for abortion. This is propaganda par excellence. This is Orwellian speak to the nth degree. And if Christians let this happen, if they fall in line for this, if they just give this a pass, then the Republican Party is over. And I believe that Christians will abandon the Republican Party just as they abandoned the Democratic Party long ago. And all you will have is just a group of liberals on one side or the other, a little more extreme liberals on the Democrats, and then more moderate liberals on the Republican, battling it out in the elections every year. And that's the way it's going to have to be unless we hold the line and say, no, this politician has to go. This woman cannot run on a conservative ticket because she's not conservative. She cannot run and pretend she's pro-life when she is for abortion and is talking points from the pro-choice movement. And we cannot tolerate this. This is evil staring you in the face, trying to look cherubic, angelic. And we cannot stand for this.
So her video was in response to a ruling by the Arizona State Supreme Court that allowed an 1864 statute banning abortion to stand. And you'll remember Kari Lake is a former Arizona governor candidate, and now she is an Arizona Senate candidate. And she wanted to respond to this because she is trying to win that independent vote that, of course, she lost when she ran for governor. Now, can I just be honest about what my take on Kari Lake has always been? There was one day that we were going to have her on the show.
Okay, she's going to talk a little bit about Kari Lake here. We can skip this and see what else she says.
And this whole gimmick of claiming that it was election fraud, that I'm not saying there's never any funny business
going on. And that was the irregularities.
Going to appeal to most people in the purple state of Arizona, and certainly wasn't going to appeal to a lot of women. It's interesting, and I think sat back and knew. I didn't say anything in an appealing way at all. And now she is trying to win back those women by pretending to be like, or maybe she really is, I don't know, like this soft, gentle, genteel person, and equivocating on something like abortion because she thinks that she is going to ingratiate herself to this group of women. I don't think that it's going to work, and it's for the same reason that I don't think that it's going to work for Donald Trump. I don't believe that there is this group of independents or this group of moderate conservatives or this group of independent, conservative, or apolitical women who are all just waiting to vote Republican and all just waiting to vote for Donald Trump or waiting to vote for Kari Lake, who is very much aligned with Donald Trump, but they just need to hear that Kari Lake and Donald Trump are moderate on abortion, and then they've secured their vote. I'm sorry, no. People who are in that camp that I just described, they don't like Trump, they don't like MAGA, and it's not primarily the abortion issue that's holding them back.
Right. And so this whole ill-fated calculation that these politicians are making that they need to appear more moderate on abortion is not going to work. It's going to backfire, actually, because you are going to really upset your conservative Christian base if you're a politician if you start talking pro-abortion. This Kari Lake, if I were in Arizona and I heard a supposedly pro-life, conservative family value, traditional family value politician that I voted for in the past start talking about pro-life talking points, I would be very angry. Just as I was very angry when I began to hear Trump speak against this law in Arizona. Trump doesn't have to speak against this law. He can say, well, the states have made their decision. That's what I wanted to do with Roe v. Wade. We overthrew that because of my 3 appointments to the Supreme Court. And so the democracy is working. The states at the local level, subsidiary it's called, you make the decisions at the lowest level, is working. And so you may not like Arizona's strict anti-abortion law, but you don't have to live in Arizona. New York is a place that has virtually no restrictions on abortion. California is another place with no restrictions on abortion. And the pro-life movement is trying to persuade New York people and California people to change their laws, to put more restrictions on abortion. Because, again, we value human life at all levels. But this is what Trump was hoping for and talking about in his first term. And now we have it, and he's coming out and saying, no, this is an atrocity. Well, Kari Lake is even taking it further. She's going on with a video, a soft sob story video, and trying to be soft and trying to appeal to women's sensibilities. And it's the same old pro-choice rhetoric. So we cannot allow this to happen. And I hope the people in Arizona just basically toss her off the ticket.
And you don't have to agree with them. I don't agree with them on a lot of things. But to those people, they see MAGA and Trump as a unique threat to democracy. They see him as a racist. They could never tell their friends that they voted for him or anyone aligned with him. And they see him as potentially a convicted felon. So there is so much of a stigma surrounding MAGA that these people that Kari Lake and Donald Trump are trying to appeal to are not going to be effectively swayed by this. They're just not. And so we are losing this battle, and it will not help us win the war. I think that's the thought. That's the calculation. We might equivocate on this battle. We'll surrender a little ground. Again, we'll give a little bit of baby murder, or maybe a lot of baby murder. I don't know exactly what their stance is. But we will ultimately win the election. We will ultimately win the war. I think that that is strategically foolish. I do not think that that's going to work. I also think that that is going to, and this is what people get mad about. You can get mad all you want to. I think that that is also going to chip away at the enthusiasm of the pro-life Christians who Donald Trump and other Republicans like him need to be their evangelists.
Exactly. I mean, it's already bothering me, and it's bothering her, and it's bothering millions of other Christians that we have these candidates who will not stand up for human life, but are starting to cave in on this. And if we see a lot more Republicans do this, it's going to hurt the Republican Party. It's going to hurt the nation because it's going to go leftist. But we're not going to vote for pro-abortion people. Now, Donald Trump, he talks a lot. So he can't do anything about Arizona. He can't really change any laws, and it's a good thing at this point because he's talking crazy. But he's still a better candidate than Joe Biden, who is totally 100% in for abortion. He wants it everywhere. Trump doesn't want it everywhere, so that is still a better position Donald Trump holds than Joe Biden. But I'm telling you, if these politicians start going soft on abortion and all these other human life issues, we're not going to vote for them.
And be their apologists and be their supporters who will go out and tell other people and convince other people to vote for them. Now, those pro-life Christians will still vote for Donald Trump. I'm still going to vote for Donald Trump because I understand the binary option there. And RFK is just not an option for me because he is way too radical on abortion and some other issues. But while those pro-life Christians will vote for Donald Trump and might vote for Kari Lake, will vote for the most pro-life option, they're going to have a hard time going out amongst their friends and communities and say, yes, it is your moral imperative to vote for this Republican candidate. Because at the end of the day, right now, we're looking at a field of pro-choicers. We're looking at a bunch of evil options when it comes to their abortion position, and we're just trying to decide which one is least evil. And abortion is a big enough issue that this is going to become very morally sticky for a lot of people who tend to vote Republican, a lot of Christians who tend to vote Republican. I just don't think that they are winning anyone over by this position, but you are potentially losing people by this position.
Exactly. So I think she did a great job in breaking that down. Now, we are seeing a lot of Republicans beginning to question whether a pro-life person can actually win in modern politics. We're at a point where it actually may be hard or even impossible for a candidate to win a state, a moderate state even, with a strong pro-life conviction. But the only hope is for these candidates to get out there and actually articulate an authentic, true, consistent pro-life position. if you simply define what you mean by pro-life, and if you simply explain that we as Christians, we believe that every human being is worthy of life. We have a constitution that talks about we have a right to life. And the Declaration of Independence talks about we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So it's a most fundamental right, which is the right to life. So then you go back and you say, well, okay, you don't believe that human life in the womb should be protected. At what point do you draw the line? Well, there's no other logical point other than conception, because every stage after conception is just simply a stage of human life. And every other point of line being drawn other than conception is just an arbitrary standard that can be totally refuted easily. But conception is the moment a human life begins. And so if you take that human life anytime after conception, you are committing murder. And as a godly, humane person, we don't want to take innocent human life. And so we oppose abortion on the basis of it takes a human life. It takes an innocent human life who cannot defend itself. And so that simply articulating the pro-life message. Now, we don't have politicians that actually articulate the pro-life message. If Donald Trump would just get up on his platform and say, here is why I am opposed to killing babies in the womb, because I believe that all human life is sacred, and I believe that all human life has a right to life. And my opponents, I guess, don't believe that all human life has a right to life. And so if he starts to simply articulate the pro-life movement belief in the sacredness of human life, he wins. But these politicians think that, well, that's a little complicated, people can't understand. No, people can understand. Simply get up there and state why you're pro-life, and you will win the argument. But if you simply start running from the issue and act like you're scared, act like you're defensive, act like you can't defend this position, yeah, they see like blood in the water, they begin to circle like sharks because they see that you're operating on a basis of weakness and you don't even believe your own position, which may be a problem in and of itself. A lot of these politicians actually don't believe in the pro-life arguments. They're just pro-life out of political expediency. And so we need to tell the politicians who say they're pro-life, okay, don't even say you're pro-life unless you really are. And don't say you're pro-life unless you're willing to defend that position. Because if you're not authentically really pro-life, then you're a hypocrite. So we need to have another politician run, and you need to sit it out or join the other team or join the other party or whatever. But don't present yourself as a conservative Republican, pro-life Republican, and don't act like you're pro-life. And then when it comes down to actually running, you start talking like a Democrat pro-abortion person like Kari Lake, and unfortunately like Donald Trump. So we need to tell these politicians, nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play that game. You don't need to appear and sound like you're pro-abortion to win the election. Just simply articulate the clarity of the truth that we're holding here about the pro-life position, and you will win by default. So hopefully this has been helpful, and we will talk to you next week. God bless.